Hey everybody, welcome back to Inside the Force. Thank you so much for coming back and joining me, and welcome to everybody else that's just finding us. We hope you enjoy listening to Inside the Force. You can find us on all the podcast feeds as well as on YouTube, where we do multiple shows, not just this one, but we've got more shows that we do, council sessions where we dive into some big debate topics beyond the saga, where we explore all the publishing side of Star Wars, Dark Knowledge, where we get into kind of the dark side of Star Wars topics, Masters of the Order. I interview people that have worked on Star Wars projects, and some commentaries and things like that are on there, and more in the works. So if you're interested in more content there, please check that out. If you want to support the channel, we're also on Patreon, patreon.com/InsideTheForce. You can get some exclusive merch there, as well as some early access and some exclusive content that only is going on to Patreon. So again, thanks for everybody for joining me. Back solo this week. Last week I had Hannah and Corey joining me on the show, which was good to get a big discussion going on the trailer for Andor. So if you wanted to hear us, if you missed that one, you want to hear us talking about that trailer, go check that out. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it on this show, as well as dive into some details about Andor that are pretty interesting, which is mainly how they've shot most of it on practical sets versus the volume that has been used for, it seems like, all the other shows, The Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan Kenobi. But it seems as though Andor has not used the volume. And I just want to kind of dive into that a little bit and kind of share my thoughts on that, but and a little bit more on the trailer. But first, let's get into some news from the past week, and stories. And one story is that the Lego Star Wars series that they've been putting out on Disney Plus. You know, there was the Christmas special, or the holiday special, I guess, then the Halloween Terrifying Tales thing, and now they have Summer Vacation. Now, I started watching this. I didn't finish it. I was catching it before I got into something else. So I don't know. I think it's like a 40 something minute movie, and I got into maybe about 15 minutes or so before I had to turn it off. But what's interesting about these shows, these Lego movies, is that they do seem like they're trying to keep them within the canon of Star Wars. You know, they're putting it in a timeline. For example, this takes place after Episode 9, apparently, right? Because the Empire has been defeated. You got Rey, Finn, Poe, and Rose is in this. And they're all got to kind of figure out things that they're doing now that the First Order has been destroyed, and they're rebuilding the Republic and the Jedi Order and stuff like that. So very interesting how they do that with the canon of Star Wars, where they're putting that into that. But of course, there's in order to bring in the other characters, like the legacy characters or past characters, like Vader and Palpatine and Yoda and Luke and all that stuff, Obi-Wan, you have flashbacks or you have stories told. So that's an interesting way of doing it. But I read some articles and I watched some videos about how interesting it is about them setting up possibly what's to come. I don't know how much you can read into the Lego Star Wars movies on whether or not we can determine what's going to be coming. Like what is Rey going to actually be doing? What is Poe going to actually be doing? Is Finn going to be a Jedi? Things like that. But it seems like they're hinting at some of those things without being too, revealing. So it's possible, I think I haven't gotten to that part yet, but apparently Rey maybe talks about going off and searching the unknown regions and finding more Jedi temples, basically things that Luke did. So hopefully it's not just a repeated storyline that we see later on, possibly if we do get Daisy Ridley back to play Rey Skywalker. But we'll see. But that's out there. It dropped last Friday. I'll finish it up maybe this weekend. But one thing I did finish up was the documentary series Light and Magic. That is awesome. If you guys have any interest in the beginnings of Lucasfilm, ILM, which is Industrial Light and Magic, obviously, go watch this thing. I mean, it is, a lot of it I already did know, because I'm obviously a big Star Wars fan. So I've seen the stories, I've read the stories about how ILM started, how Star Wars got shot and made, how Empire got shot and made, how Jedi got shot and made. But there's a lot of things that I didn't know regarding some of the ways they did the effects, some of the ways how they figured it out. Working on other movies also, which is pretty neat, like E.T. and Poltergeist, how they did certain things with that. Then of course the big one, that they got into really with the CG stuff was Abyss, and then ultimately T2, and then Terminator 2, and then into Jurassic Park. So it's just really cool to hear how these early, Industrial Light and Magic employees were working for George, but really working for themselves, because they were obviously pioneers. No one was doing what they were doing. No one knew how to do what they were doing. So they had to literally invent everything before they even did any of the shots and performed any of the effects. I mean, the Poltergeist thing where they, the house at the end gets kind of sucked into nothing, almost like a different dimension, right? I mean, they had to figure out how they were going to do that. No CG effects. I mean, that was done practically with a model. So these days, those guys are technically out of business. You have CG animators now that can do that in a week, probably. Well, these guys took, months to build this thing to destroy it for one shot at getting it. So, very impressive how these guys and girls, changed the movie industry and easily have given us what we have today. So the evolution of it, and to see, this is something like, I started to get my daughter, who is 12, trying to get into it and watch it, because, she grew up with nothing but these type of effects, right? CG animation and CG effects, and being able to kind of have a hard time distinguishing what's practical and what's computer generated on a screen. But, she watches like, Star Wars or Empire or Indiana Jones or, Goonies. If I had her try to watch Goonies, she watches these movies, and she could see how bad the effects are. To her, they're really bad. To us that are, in that generation, 30s and 40s, it's like, that was pretty good back then. And yes, compared to now, it's not great, but it's still pretty good. So, I watch movies sometimes, from the 90s that are, still hold up pretty well. That CG, obviously, it's early stages of it. We watched, me and my daughter watched the whole Jurassic Park series before we went and saw Dominion, the new movie. So she has seen the evolution of these. So that, the first Jurassic Park to her wasn't as grand as it was when I watched it in the movie theater. I specifically remember watching that in the movie theater and thinking, what is going on? How did they do that? It was just incredible. So incredible series, Light and Magic on Disney Plus. Go watch that. That was a very, very cool series. Want to, it's long. I'll tell you that it's long. Those are hour-long episodes. So, I believe there's 6 of them. I think there's 6 of them. But so, get some popcorn, sit back, enjoy that. That is really, really good. And I think that's going to kind of lend itself a little bit about what I'm going to talk about mainly with the practical stuff and with Andor. But a couple other little bit of news here. Disney Plus, some things about Disney Plus. Fortunately, I'll say first up, Disney Plus Day is coming. You remember that's going to be September 8th, which I believe is on the heels of D23. Can't remember the dates of D23. D23 is, which is in Anaheim again, September 9th, 10th, and 11th. Yeah, so this is actually at the beginning of D23. So on September 8th, there is going to be what's called Disney Plus Day. And on Disney Plus Day, there's going to be some big reveals. The article I read, it says that it's going to feature epic events and surprises. Now, apparently there's going to be more reveals for Marvel. At Comic-Con just recently, Kevin Feige mentioned there's going to be more revealed. Basically there were a lot of question marks on Phase 6. So they're going to probably release some of that, maybe coming at Disney Plus Day. But then Star Wars, Lucasfilm apparently is going to be having more reveals. Rumor is that we'll get kind of what the 2023 slate will be. When Mando is going to be coming back, when Ahsoka is going to premiere, if we're going to get a definitive date for Bad Batch Season 2, if the Acolyte is going to be coming next year, is there going to be any movies coming in anytime soon? So I think a lot of people usually have big expectations for these things, and we don't really get a lot of them. So I'm kind of gonna not hold my breath on anything. I do think what's going to happen the rest of this year, like when Bad Batch is going to come out, beginning of next year, when is The Mandalorian Season 3 going to premiere? I think things like that we can probably get, but I doubt we'll get anything. I don't think we'll get anything fully announced yet on Ahsoka or Acolyte, which seems like those are the next 2 shows that are coming. Keep hearing hopes that they might announce a Obi-Wan Season 2, but I think that's far, far down the list. I need to hear something about the movies. Personally, I think we need to hear whether or not we're getting a movie or who's working on the next movie, because I feel like Disney is just missing out on a ton of revenue. They're missing out on just the Star Wars fandom. I just feel like the Star Wars fandom are moviegoers. That's just me. I think Disney Plus is great to fill that Star Wars itch, but Star Wars is a theatrical experience. So hopefully they get some movies back in the theaters, because I would have loved to keep getting a movie every year. We would have got 2 more movies already beyond Episode 9. And we should be getting another one this year. So anyway, I need that. I want that. Hopefully they can get back to doing that. I mean, it works for everything else they do, right? Marvel, Pixar, Disney, they put out movies every year. Star Wars needs to be in theaters every year. Just one a year. One a year is not bad. But on the flip side of that, Disney Plus is looking to increase its prices starting December 8th, apparently. So all their platforms, if you just have Disney Plus by itself, it's going up. If you have the bundle with Hulu and ESPN, it's going up. they are adding ads to Disney Plus. So there will be an ad version and there will be an ad-free version. Apparently, if you are already a subscriber, you will be able to get legacy pricing, which is a little cheaper, but it's still going up more than what you're paying now. So there you go. And ultimately, I have the bundle, the Hulu with no ads bundle, Hulu Live, Disney Plus, ESPN Plus. So I'm not a fan of ads, so I'll probably be paying for that, no ads thing. But just look for that if it's going up. The other thing about it, what's funny, is that apparently they as in Disney's direct-to-consumer division, reported a loss this last quarter of $1.1 billion, billion with a B. So they're not making any money yet from the Disney, even though they have 221 million as an M, 221 million subscribers is what Disney Plus has. So they've definitely have broken their records on that, but they're not, they're chalking it up to, marketing expenses and operating expenses. But they do project some money being made by 2024. So it's not going away, obviously. It's going to keep getting bigger and better, apparently. So anyway, that's your Disney Plus news. Disney Plus Day coming September 8th. Your prices are going up in December, and they're adding ads to Disney Plus. Sorry to break that bad news to you. Okay, in the publication world, we've got this coming Tuesday. I'm excited about this. The Princess and the Scoundrel, coming out August 16th. In fact, actually, let me talk about real quick Shadow of the Sith that I'm in the middle of reading or listening to right now. I cannot wait to talk about this book. Me and Hannah are going to talk about this book on Beyond the Saga, but to be honest, I'm probably going to talk a lot about it on this show because it's, dare I say, it is easily the most significant novel, canon novel that is out there. There's so much in this book regarding Luke, Han, Ochi, the Sith, Exegol, Rey, her parents. I mean, it's almost the prelude. It should have been the prelude, or or it should have been maybe it should have been episode 8. I keep saying 7 and 8 should have been one movie, and this maybe should have been episode 8, and then you do episode 9. I don't know. It's just incredible how good this book is, and how important I feel like the storyline is in it, and the details. So I can't wait. I'm almost done with it. I'll probably be done with it by next week. And I want to talk about it on this show a lot. And then, again, me and Hannah will do a Beyond the Saga on it and talk specifically about certain things. But that is so good. You guys got to go and get this book. It is it's pretty incredible. In fact, it's so good. Here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out a way to get it to some of you out there. So I'll bring that up next time I talk about that. I'm gonna do a giveaway for Shadow of the Sith. If you haven't gotten it, or maybe you just want a digital version of it, but let me figure that out. Figure out how we can do that, because I got to get this book out to you guys. It's so good. So I'll talk about that next time. Okay. Let's see. Like I said, Princess and the Scoundrel, August 16. Path of Deceit, October 4th, which is a High Republic book that kicks off Phase 2. And then you got High Republic Convergence November 15th, and then this Phase 2 wraps with Path of Vengeance on May 2nd. Comics, just today came out Bounty Hunters 26 and Han Solo and Chewbacca number 5. Next week you got Star Wars 26, The Mandalorian number 2, Darth Vader 26, and Aphra 23 come out August 24th. And then that's it for August. And then September 7th, you got Star Wars 27. September 14th, you got Bounty Hunter 27. And Obi-Wan number, weird, I put 27. That's not right. So that is probably number 3, I think, probably. But I will, no, it looks like it might be number 4 or 5. Anyway, I'll get that corrected. And then September 21st, a couple of books, Darth Vader 27, Mandalorian number 3. So that is your publication news. I'm just going to make a note on that, about that release schedule for what I think is Obi-Wan number 4. Let me just check it out real fast since we got some time. But like I said, with Shadow of Sith, I'm going to do my best to figure out a giveaway for that. Let me know some ideas, because I think I'm just going to do something about, commenting or subscribers or something like that on YouTube, maybe. Or simply just maybe commenting on the video. That might be a good thing. Actually, let's do that. If you're listening on any platform, well, actually, let's do this since it's easy. At the bottom of this video, you can see the contact email, mail@insidetheforce.com. Why don't you shoot me a email there? Tell me you want Shadow of the Sith. Or you can send a message on social, and you can see them there, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So either send me a message on one of those or email me, mail@insidetheforce.com. I'll get you in a contest to win Shadow of the Sith. Gotta get this book to you. And I can either send you a hard copy or I can send you a digital version of it. So let's do that, because I want to get you guys that book. Somebody, maybe a couple people, just depends. Send it in. I will contact you once we talk about it on the show, probably next week. So do that for me. And there's also, I was ill prepared to do this, and I wanted to do this because I actually kept forgetting to do this. But part 2 of my interview with Masters of the Order with Danny Keller. There is a part in that conversation where we do a giveaway. I think it's at the end of part 2. Yes. So if you guys if you're able to, if you haven't seen the interview, there is a figure that Danny Keller has. That's kind of his how do I say it? It's a clone trooper that he painted, and it's got U.S. Army decals on it, and it's painted like his father was a vet, and he wanted to dedicate this trooper, this figure, to a veteran or somebody that you would suggest as a veteran or someone worthy or was a veteran. You don't have to be a veteran yourself. But if you have a veteran that you know that we can get this figure to, we want to give that figure to somebody. So all the listeners out there, all the Star Wars fans out there, if you yourself are a veteran, or if you yourself knows a veteran that would like this figure, I don't have the figure yet. Danny's actually sending me the figure. So, but if you go to part 2 of Masters of the Order with Danny Keller, it's around the 54-minute mark towards the end. We talk about the figure and we talk about giving it away. So please, same thing about like Shadow of the Sith. Hit me up on social or email me at mail@insidetheforce.com. Let me know that you want this thing, and we'll pick somebody and we'll send it out. So like I said, it's a minifigure model that he has painted to kind of honor the veterans of our country. So please, you don't have to be American either. If you want this thing for anybody that's fought kind of in any wars, just any veteran of anything, you just please send me your story, and love to hear it. Love to get you guys this figure. So yeah, that'd be great. So I meant to say that last week, I forgot, but there it is. It's out there now. So 2 little giveaways now: Shadow of the Sith and this Clone Trooper minifigure. Please, let me know if you guys want them. Send them to social. Send them to the email. All right. Great job. Sorry about a little bit delayed there because I'm trying to, do this on the fly. I forgot about those things. All right. So let's get into, this topic. And this topic is really, really something that I read about, that I was really kind of thinking in my head how I felt about it. Because basically, it's the first Star Wars show, with Andor being, it sounds like it's being the first that didn't use the volume as a production set. It used practical sets. Now, as you kind of look at the trailer, you know very well that there was obviously CG used in the movie, right? Or in the show. There's no way they didn't do any of this without CG. But apparently, the sets that they had were not done in the volume, though. They were on site, and they were probably either blue screened or green screened and stuff like that. So, obviously the Senate floor is pretty much entirely CG. There's no volume there. So it just seems like they shot the show similar to how I guess they shot the movies, right? The sequel trilogy, Solo, Rogue One. They probably shot it the same way with Rogue One. Which I think I'm hearing on, at least on social, that already kind of elevates the quality of the show, elevates their interest in the show. That's what's weird. I'm hearing mixed things about that, right? Hearing mixed things about how they feel about being on practical set, being on the volume. So I really started thinking about how I felt about that, because, watching the trailer, and I'm kind of looking at it right now, skimming through it, watching the trailer. Here's the thing. Before I read some comments regarding Andor being shot on practical sets versus volume, I would have never guessed that just by watching the trailer. So that's where I am kind of. I see I more or less see the advantage of shooting on the volume versus does it look better or not versus practical sets. Because here's the thing is, to me, it feels like what you're debating, if you are debating it, there's a lot of, like when you're shooting on the volume, there's still practicality, right, in the shot. You've got foreground assets or items or whatever that are practical. And then you just have your background image, which is the volume or it's CG'd or whatever. Technically, you're doing the same thing on a practical set. You have practical items a lot around. Maybe you have more of it, but you still have practicals. And then you have a green screen or blue screen in the background, which you put a CG image on it in post-production. So you're almost just doing it. You're doing the same thing. You're just doing one during production on set, and you're capturing it in a camera. The other one, you're doing it later in the editing process. So I think what's the difference, really, what some people are kind of making the difference is the volume. You might be limited to how much practical set you can put there versus on location somewhere or on a big soundstage, you're able to build more of the set. So I could see where they probably went with, more practical sets for Andor because they wanted it to feel bigger in scope than I feel like these other shows were doing. Because if you think about Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan Kenobi, these series were very isolated in locations. Mandalorian very small in scale in a sense because it's centered around just a couple characters in the same place. And these characters are just moving place to place, right? Mandalorian, Grogu. You may have a Moff Gideon scene somewhere, but it's always in smaller areas. Book of Boba Fett all takes place on Tatooine. Hardly any practical pieces anyway, because the cities are so small, you just need kind of background. Obi-Wan Kenobi, very isolated. You had maybe a couple shots, obviously in bigger scope, like the Inquisitor's fortress. Alderaan was kind of big, but that was, again, CG sets. But that's really it. Andor seems like there's just going to be a lot more characters going on, a lot of locations, a lot of big locations, especially if we're going to go back to Coruscant, which it looks like we are. We got the Senate. It's got a lot of buildings in the background. Got a lot of wide spaces. I mean, that's the thing about Star Wars and on Coruscant. Everything's big, right? I mean, Palpatine's office is massive. You got to believe Mon Mothma's apartment, her office is going to be massive. You got all these characters that you see on the poster that are going to have be part of the story. So wherever they're coming from, it looks like they're all coming from different parts because they're probably rebels that, part of the rebellion and rebels that are coming together. So I think this is going to feel more like a movie than any of the shows that we've gotten so far. I don't think it's going to feel like a TV series. I think it's really going to feel like Rogue One. Hence, I wore my Rogue One shirt for this. I think they're trying to obviously make it match that cinematography, that production design, and I think they're getting it. I think this trailer looks like that. I think the volume, works on limited space. I think what's going to happen with the volume is it's going to keep getting bigger. As technology keeps getting better year after year, you're eventually going to see just a really massive volume at some point where you can have bigger locations and still use it. But I think the way they're shooting these shows right now and starting off saving money with just building the sets in the computer before production starts, and then when you're on set with it, you're able to capture it in camera. I think that obviously would save some money, probably more so on the post side, and give you a little bit more time to shoot what you actually need on set and change it on the fly. So I don't know. I think there's definitely advantages for both. I think it just depends on the situation right now until one catches up with the other, which is basically the volume in scope. I think in size catches up with practical sets. I think it's just gonna be preference on the story right now and on the scope, what it needs, because I think Andor is going to prove, depending on what the budget is. I mean, hopefully we find out maybe what the budget is for these 2 seasons, 24 episodes, because I believe the first season of Mandalorian, I want to say it was 80 million. Does that sound right? 8 episodes, I think it was 10 million a piece. So this is probably more than that, I would say. I mean, you have some big names in here too. Stellan Skarsgård, Forrest Whitaker, Genevieve O'Reilly, she's played Mon Mothma before. Diego Luna, I'm sure wasn't cheap getting him back. But, if you're putting a lot of production cost in the sets, then it's not hard to think that this thing was, 12, 15 million an episode, which would put this first season over 120 million. So that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money for a television series. So, practical, I think, is the way they're betting on it. And I do think that's going to make the show feel better and look better. But I think it came down to just capabilities. I just don't think the volume was going to make the sets that they wanted to make real. I think they would have had to limit the size of the sets, the size of the people they put in there, how many people they put on in the shot. I think that's what we're limited to at the volume right now. But I don't think visually that you can tell that big of a difference. Especially like I'm looking at a shot now with Forrest Whitaker. I mean, that's such a tight shot. You couldn't tell I don't think you can tell a difference whether or not that was the volume or that was a practical set. I just think the volume looks that good. Maybe some of you out there can. I mean, I'm kind of in this business too, and there's stuff that we do for commercials that we do CG backgrounds, and I mean, just with the software we have, it's hard to even tell the difference, especially when you make it softer because of trying to make it out of focus because it's in the background. It's hard to at that point really tell what's going on. So stuff like this, when you've got soft backgrounds, it's hard at that point to even tell what it is you're looking at versus whether or not it's real or not. So it's in the wide shots where you kind of start seeing details and can figure out. It's just like, back in the day, like when I was talking about Light and Magic, when they would do matte paintings for backgrounds, if it's a tight shot and the background's blurred out, you never tell if it was a matte painting or not. But when you're wide and everything's in focus, then you can start really pinpointing what's real, what's not, what's a matte painting, what's a CG shot. So, anyway, I think it's just fascinating. I think the whole idea of the volume, how it got created, I think it's just fascinating. So, hopefully it keeps getting bigger and better, which I do believe it will, because I think it's going to be one of the things where it changes, how movies are made and how many movies are actually starting using it. I think they're going to start popping up all over the country. I mean, I know LA's got one now. I bet you Atlanta's going to get one if they don't have one already. It's going to be one in New York, I'm sure. So you're going to be able to do volume work all over the country and be able to work more efficiently, I believe. So anyway, that's kind of my thoughts on it. The overall Andor trailer, like I said last week, you know, I got Hannah and Corey on there if you want to go check that out and listen to us talking about it a little bit. But the trailer was phenomenal. I think it was really good. I mean, and I mentioned it last week, the trailer's 2 minutes and 24 seconds. If these episodes are 45, 50 minutes a piece, practically we've got about a 11 to 12 hour movie. 11 to 12 hour movie with this whole first season. 2 minutes and 24 seconds means that we have not seen anything. Probably most of these shots came from the first 3 episodes that are coming out September 21st. I mean, I'm sure there's some shots in there that are going to come later, but I just think there's so much that we haven't seen. So much we haven't seen. So I'm really excited about the show. I can't wait to dive into it. Literally, I mean, it's Wednesday right now that I'm recording this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. In 6 weeks, 3 episodes will drop. So can't wait. Hope you can't wait. We'll be talking Andor a lot on this show, as well as the Mandalore podcast, which I am on with Martin Donison, who is actually going to start joining me more often on council sessions here on Inside the Force. So go to our YouTube channel, subscribe there, or make sure you're subscribed to any podcast feeds that you get, and go check out the Mandalore podcast, where we deep dive into every episode of the Disney Plus series. So, but we'll do it. We'll do some talking and stuff on here as well. All right, let's see some comments I got on the last episode from Thrawn Addict saying, great discussion. Love the Andor trailer and has got me real excited for the series. I feel like this could be the dark horse and be the best of all Disney Plus shows. But we will see. I loved Rogue One and love it when they focus on the Empire and the rise of the rebellion. Definitely my favorite time period. Best part of the trailer for me was seeing Saw Gerrera. I really love, would really like to see him becoming too extreme, and Mothma and others detaching themselves from him. I do think we'll see that as well. Thrawn Addict, I definitely think we'll see that as well. Yeah, and I think this could be the best Disney Plus series. I really do. Right now, I would probably say, for me, it's Obi-Wan. That's kind of my favorite right now. I mean, if you rank favorite, best, I mean, I don't know. I think Mandalorian is probably the best series right now. Obi-Wan was my favorite. This could be both. This could be my favorite and the best. I actually think so. Also, Thrawn Axe says, I know I would love to see a cameo from Thrawn. Yeah, we mentioned possibly seeing a cameo from him in this before he shows up in Ahsoka, as possible, maybe. Jojo says, I love this trailer so much. Hopefully Leia will be a part of the show, starting to help from the Alliance, perhaps. That's probably not going to happen, but we'll see. The fact that the release date changed is unfortunate, but we all prefer it to be as good as possible rather than rushed. The Obi-Wan show was amazing, and a part of the reason might be because of the pushback of the release date. In that case, it was much less of a change than Andor, which was pushed back several weeks. Whatever, I'm still in shock of how amazing the Obi-Wan series was. Still very blown away. I'm with you, blown away by it. And I do think that this, I kind of think, in my opinion, honestly, I kind of think the pushback of the release date was not necessarily due to, finishing the show and all that. I actually think they want to market it more at D23, which is early September, and get more people hyped again. Probably release another kind of trailer or some kind of series of TV spots or something like that. and then release it after that. So I think Disney Plus, or I think D23 is going to reveal a lot about what Lucasfilm and Star Wars are doing. I think they're going to have a little bit. I think that's going to draw a lot of attention, and it's obviously going to build up more anticipation for Andor. So that's what I think is going on. I think the show is done in the can and ready to come out. Okay, and then, of course, we did some Dark Knowledge we dropped a Dark Knowledge this past week. Me and Corey talked about Darth Vader a little bit. Thrawn Addict says, great discussion, guys. Really enjoyed it and am loving Dark Knowledge. Great. I love that we get a lot of Darth Vader in other media like comics and novels, and I don't think filling in the gaps in the timeline takes anything away. When they do it right, they can give more background to the character and still make him mysterious and terrifying at the same. Don't forget, learning more about him and not knowing him as a brutal murderer Sith Lord helps us accept his turn in Return of the Jedi. Agreed. Yeah, totally agree with that. I think more material on characters is always better. Kind of gives them more background and and just adds more context. I love getting into a good story and listening more or watching more, especially if something becomes before the original trilogy, and then rewatching the original trilogy and knowing those things kind of changes the way those things are viewed sometimes. Thrawn Addict mentions his top 3 Vader moments because we talk about that on the show. And number 1 for him is top of the stairs in Bespin. The carbonation chamber, what a chilling and fascinating visual. Yes. Number 2 was Star Wars Rebels, Vader versus Ahsoka. Yep, that was good. I debated on putting that in mine. And then number 3 was Rogue One hallway scene. Yes. Good moments. Honorable mention, Obi-Wan finale with the mask cut off. Fantastic scene, even though not much dialogue, was so powerful. Very true. Jojo says, totally agree, though the latest scene is so good that I think I'd be putting it higher, but the Rogue One was just terrifying, so I'm not sure. Yep. Yeah, it's hard to pick. When I was doing my top 3 Vader moments, man, they all kind of came rushing in, and the Vader Ahsoka is incredible. I'm surprised that's not in my top 3, but my top 3, I believe, I can't believe I just already kind of forgot what I said this earlier, whenever we recorded this. We didn't record it this past week. We recorded it a little while ago. Mine was definitely, I think my number 1 was Luke and Vader in Empire. That's right. And I think number 2 was the Vader. I think it might have been Rogue One, might have been number 2. And then number 3 was the Vader season 2 premiere, Rebels, when he just basically just did what he wanted with Kanan and Ezra. I just thought that was incredible. I remember seeing that at Celebration, and I was blown away by that. But those are my kind of 3. And then, of course, my honorable mentions were the Obi-Wan finale and then Ahsoka and Vader. I mean, I couldn't believe it was hard to keep those out. But anyway, great Vader moments out there, and I think we're going to get more of them. There's tons in the comics. Vader down was an incredible moment for Vader, so things like that. So anyway, thanks everybody. That was it for this show. Go to patreon.com/InsideTheForce if you want to help support the show there. We got some different tiers on there, some merch on there, and some changes I think are coming to there too. I want to kind of, Patreon was I've never done Patreon before, so when I launched it, got some patrons on there, so I want to make sure I'm giving them everything they need. And then, of course, anybody who wants to join, I want to make sure that they're always knowing that I want to try to involve that thing and get everything out there that's the best for you guys. So appreciate it. Again, thanks to all my patrons, especially my master patrons, and you guys are awesome. And if you got any suggestions, totally please send them my way. I'm definitely getting into a different mode here where I'm working on getting some different things done. So please let me know what I can do, and I will get it done. And just can't say enough how much I appreciate it. that is it for me. I will see you guys next week. Be lookout for the next Beyond the Saga next week as we continue the Star Wars comic series. Got some council sessions that me and Martin are going to be knocking out. A couple of them are going to be centered around the release of Andor and some characters on that. So got some good stuff coming there. And I'll be back next week here on Inside the Force. Take care. Have a great week and weekend. I'll see you next time. May the Force be with you.